let's roll it back to the beginning. You ready? All right, new theme. Here we go. Let's start. Go ahead, Steve. Thinking of my fish out across my TV screen, made me want to jump up, say something I've seen. Yeah, fish eyes on my TV screen means the show's already begun. Yeah, 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 it's video spun. I didn't. That spun part at the end. I have to work on that. But other than that, what'd you think?
Yeah, it's much better than the original opening.
Thanks.
Is there going to be a dance mix?
Bauhaus starts off Videospin for this week, a band that was together quite a few years ago, and now they've unearthed this.
Yeah, this is a band that totally blew past me. I guess they were only together for like 4 years.
Not a major record deal, and this was a lot of their recordings from this album. As a matter of fact, were taken off the BBC radio broadcasts.
Right.
So we don't know where Bauhaus actually came from. You know, where are they now? They're probably pumping gas.
Well, no, actually, some of them are now in Love and Rockets. A couple of them broke off to be Love and Rockets.
Oh, okay.
And you can hear a lot of their music and stuff like The Cult and The Cure.
All right, it's interesting to see that video. This week's Video Spin pop quiz has to do with little violence in rock and roll. Not your normal violence, but just little tiny violence. Say, an ear or so. Pay attention.
Before Tracy Chapman and Michelle shocked, but after Bob Dylan and Joan Baez is Frank, P-H-R-A-N-C. Yep, she was doing it before it was hip, or actually in between the folk singer cycles of the 60s and the 80s. On her latest release, Frank covers topics ranging from her pet parakeet to Martina Navratilova to apartheid, which is what Bloodbath is all about.
Racial injustice is so sanctified. I think a lot, don't know where to begin, but I think a lot about the color of my skin. $29 million blacks rule by 4 million whites, and the whites have all the power, and it white means money, and white means might, but that don't mean that white's always right, and I think I'll cry. Don't know where to begin, but I think about the color of my skin. Scream and cry, don't know where to begin. I think about the color of my skin. Ashamed of the color of my skin. Reagan, Thatcher, Botha, I'm white like them, and it makes me ashamed of the color of my skin, and I'll scream and cry. Don't know where to begin. I think about the color of my skin. Scream and cry, don't know where to begin. I think about the color of my skin. Not white, it's hard to stay alive. I'll sing and cry and do what I can, and think about the color of my skin. And tonight before you go to bed, think about the color of your skin.
certainly a lot more intense than people like Tracy Chapman.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and like I said before in the introduction, she's been doing it for a lot longer too.
It's a thin line with me. Folk music is a thin line with me. I can never say anything nasty about folk music because I appreciate what they say, and it's nice they use their art as a vehicle to say things.
Right.
There's a thin line there somewhere where it's like, okay, enough.
Right. Well,
no.
She does a lot of like comic relief in her songs.
Yeah.
She does a song on her new album called Ouija and the Rodeo Parakeet, and it's about her parakeet who rides bareback on her sheepdog. So she goes back and forth between apartheid and like parakeet songs.
Oh, good. Then that's all she does. Good. Okay.
All right. Let's take a look at who's been making music on this week's Who's In and What's Out. Robyn Hitchcock's latest release, Queen Elvis, kept him on the road throughout the summer and now into the fall. On a hot day high above Pittsburgh, I had the chance to talk to Robyn about his music.
I don't know, I feel pretty discovered. You know, I do plenty of interviews. I'm sure that's a sign of being discovered. I mean, when Scott discovered the Antarctic, the first thing he did was interview it. You know, they went out there with a camera crew and they just interviewed the icebergs and the glaciers and they talked to the snow and then they went raving mad. And that's pretty much par for the course in show business.
Now, you've been recording for about 10 years, about 5 years here in the States, and during that time you've gotten a lot of critical acclaim, a lot of college airplay, but you really haven't broken into what might be considered to be the mainstream. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, when you want to fly, you take a jumbo jet, and when you want to go on the road, you take a bus. It's like asking a bus why it isn't a jet plane. You know, if I wanted to be a top 40 act, I'd go out and be a top 40 act.
So that doesn't bother you then?
No, it doesn't bother me. Anything that bothers me is people getting the wrong idea, you know. And sometimes the promotional machinery gets out of your hands.
Now, something I didn't know until recently is that in addition to being a musician, you're also an artist. Now, this seems to be the case with a lot of musicians where they started out in art school and then sort of progressed into being musicians. Is this the case with you? Do you think that was the case with you?
It's very different. It's like being a poet. You can't make any money being a poet. You know, I make a reasonable living as a so-called cult figure involving standing up with an electric guitar and an audience and stuff like that. But I wouldn't, it's very hard to do it as a painter or as an actor. I mean, this is a comparatively easy business to sort of get into if you're not too stupid or not too clever.
So does the inspiration for your artwork come from the same place that the inspiration for your music does?
I think it's one particular side of the brain. The brain's got two halves called something like Cindy and Ralph. And the Cindy side is practical and the Ralph side is intuitive, if you like. And I guess mine is the Ralph side, you know. It's the same process as dreaming, essentially, or it's the same process whereby this mineral water rained on the Alps 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and then it finally comes through years later, and it's put in bottles. But it's taken a long time for it to filter through. And so our dreams, or the way I paint or write songs, is the same process. There are experiences that happen to me and race memories and, you know, things going back to the time when we were all mud sharks or dolphins or whatever. A variety of apparently random experiences are filtered through and then they come out in my songs.
Lost Madonna of the walls, I wonder where we crossed.
Do you try to incorporate your artistic sense into your videos as well?
Well, I did until the last two were made by another guy, directed by a man called Mark Romanek, and I had nothing to do with them. The earlier videos we made, we did, me and Tony Moon directed them ourselves, and I think they were brilliant because the budget was so low we couldn't afford to have lip sync or anything like that, so we evolved our own way of doing things. And they weren't really pop promos, they were visual images to accompany a piece of music. A pop promo sells the artist. They want product identification. They want the face of whoever it is, Robyn Hitchcock or Samantha Fox or Julian Lennon or, you know, Axl Rose or someone. They want the face in there. I frankly think the process sucks, you know, and I could kick myself for getting involved in it. I'm not going to do it again.
There's a justice in this world, and she's cruel but she's fair, and I know just what she's called.
When you're on stage, what are you thinking about up there?
I'm thinking about anything. I could be thinking about burning the frying pan back home, or why I don't write songs about the massacres in Beijing. I think the thing about playing live is that it's much more risky than the studio. I'm worried about screwing up the solos and things, and that makes it quite exciting, really.
What does success mean to you as a musician?
Success is something you can never really have. Because people who want to be successful are people who want to be something they're not. And when you've achieved that thing, then you are it, so you're not going to want to be it anymore.
Now explain to people where you were when you taped that, because that will explain a lot about the interview.
Okay. We were way up on top of Pittsburgh, up on a mountain that overlooks Pittsburgh, and we were going to do the interview on this observation deck that kind of juts out from it, right? So, and I called ahead and asked them about that, and they said, oh yeah, no problem. So we go out there, we put the chairs out there, Robyn gets out of the van, walks to the observation deck, and he goes, oh no, this will never do. And I said, what's the problem? He goes, I've got vertigo. And I'm like, oh geez. We were able to work it out by bringing the chairs in off of the platform, but he was like nervous.
He was a little
high.
shook,
yeah.
Just a little shook. Schizophrenia, as we all know, and I'm talking to myself now, is when an individual has many personalities. And the Pogues are very much in that category. 1 minute, they're that angry young man fighting in the streets, you know. The next minute, they're the soulful dreamer who aches for social change, and he knows he'll never see it. And then once they hook you with that mournful demeanor, they'll stick it to you by saying something really silly, and you laugh. And then suddenly the Pogues will decide it's time to get serious again as musicians, and they get real serious playing. You're never alone with an Irish punk, traditional acoustic comic singer-musician. Pogue Mahone, is that what it is? Pogue Mahone? Pogue Mahone, and that's where the name of the Pogues come from. That's a nasty thing to say.
What does it mean?
If you're Irish, you say it. It means why, you know, that sort of thing.
Oh,
I can't really say what it means.
Oh, okay.
It means, you know, you're a nasty person, we don't like you.
I see.
Please go get a suit that doesn't match, that sort of thing. And the Pogues, that's the best thing we've seen on this show in a long time. Nice piece of video work.
Well, it's bands as opposed to solo performers that fill up our 4 and 60 this week. Let's see which group effort fares the best. We'll start it out with the Sugar Cubes, and Here Today, Tomorrow, Next Week. Now, maybe this band is really just duping us. The lyrics are truly whacked out, the music is disjointed. This is not easy listening. At the same time, Bjork, their lead female vocalist, is fascinating and compelling, and many tracks have almost a pop sound to them. Frankly, it's too close to call. Cool, Never Cold comes to us courtesy of the Wild Cards, a Latino rockabilly quartet with top 40 sensibilities, without a doubt, this week's freshest sound. The Wild Cards start on the street corner and mix south-of-the-border rhythms with Eddie Cochran riffs. You'll find 11 tracks here and not a repeat or a lemon in the bunch. Next, it's Paul Kelly and the Messengers with So Much Water, So Close to Home. This Aussie band was well on the way to becoming a new musical force, but on this release, they're stuck in a groove, and the groove is the rut of repetition. No, the music's not bad, it's just disposable. Finally, it's Wild Weekend by NRBQ. This veteran band's signature sound has always been heavy brass and bar rowdy, but you'd never know it here. The horns are often hidden or non-existent, and the dance-on-the-table tunes are AWOL. Wild Weekend has its share of fun, but in general, it comes off pale and thin. Recapping, the Sugar Cubes get a question mark. The Rockabilly Wild Cards are the pick of the week with an A. There is nothing new with Paul Kelly, C-, and the lifeless NRBQ gets a C.
I cannot believe that you just did 4 albums, supposed to be like the 4 hottest albums, the 4 albums, and you didn't include John Tesh.
John Tesh? Oh,
John
the
Tesh.
guy from Entertainment Tonight. Yeah,
he's got a new album out. He's quite a keyboardist.
Really?
Yeah, he plays, well, it's kind of laid back stuff, you know, but it's real good. As a matter of fact, we have a small piece of this John Tesh. Now, mind you, there is no video, but we put together something to go along for your eyes, to listen for your ears. This is the brand new John Tesh on Videospin. This is hot.
Things that look like fish eyes across my TV screen make me want to jump up and say something obscene. Fish eyes on my TV screen means yeah, it's time for Video Spin. Yeah, Video Spin. Fish eyes.
I cannot believe that he did that to you. I mean, it's just like so obvious.
You
He didn't
have
try
the
to
guy.
change the music or anything.
You have the guy over the house. I went out, I bought steak. I went out in my yard, I actually cooked for this man.
Yeah.
The wife and I, we have him over. I said, Tesh, new song. Pick it out on the keyboard. It said, theme to a TV show. I don't mean to be following your footsteps or anything. He says, hey, don't worry about it.
Right.
Don't worry about it. Just let me hear it. So I play it. He says, that's never going to go anywhere. It's terrible until you change those words.
That is just incredible.
And then 10 minutes later, the guy is on the TV.
Are you going to sue him? You take him into court?
He used to be a hero of mine.
You going to sue him?
I am going to take this man for everything he has,
incredible.
including that hairpiece.
All right. A few years back, trumpet player Wynton Marsalis was getting a lot of play in the music press. Well, meanwhile, lurking in the shadow of Wynton's success was his brother, Branford Marsalis. Since that time, Sting fans have come to know Branford for his work with a former policeman. Jazz fans have embraced his solo, trio, and quartet work, and silver screen fans know him from She's Gotta Have It and School Days. Now it's time that you met him. Here's Branford Marsalis.
Though we are told to omit it, we must realize that jazz music was a magnanimous force in the development of this vibrant country's artistic identity. To be even more precise, perhaps I should say that this gallant song was itself a reply to the massive hysteria that applauds charlatans and fraudulent associates as though they are knights in glistening armor preparing for battle with the inevitable, Batman. Of course, the music speaks for itself, and so I shall allow it. Assisting me in this concatenation of guerrilla warfare on the acoustic bass is the legendary Mr. Milt Hinton. And also supporting the very noble proclivities of swing and its rudimentary elements, on drums, Mr. Jeff Tane Watts. And finally, I'll know, on tenor saxophone, Branford, that's it. Branford Marsalis. Take it away, guys.
Big round of applause for Branford Marsalis. Do not attempt to adjust your set. I just like this look.
Yeah, this is nice.
Grays and the black and white.
I feel like I'm on Nickelodeon late at night or something. Now, what is that song? That's Making Whoopie, right? Now, this is the second time we've had that song as a remake this year.
It was Dr. John and Ricky Lee Jones. Yeah.
Right, nice song.
It's the song.
Isn't it odd how one song will pop up,
yeah,
you know, and people remake it over and over again? Speaking of popping up, one of our performers this evening popped up at a concert and had their ear bitten off. Let's check out who that was in tonight's answer to the pop quiz. Now, the question I have is not so much the fact that he got his ear bitten. What about the person that bit his ear? What were you doing at the show? You decided, well, this has been a really good show. I'm really rocking out now. Let's go bite somebody's ear.
You know, for some reason, I knew